Welcome to our third exercise on quadratics. Today we're going to be factorising, which is, in fact, the opposite to expanding. So we're working backwards today. Remember, in the past we have expanded brackets, so we might have had what have I been bumping to do this? Welcome to our third class on quadratics, and today we're going to be factorising, which is the opposite of expanding. Now you may remember in the past we've been doing things like this. We've been foiling brackets out. So we've gone x times x is x squared. X times minus 3x plus 2x minus 6, which gives x squared minus x minus 6. That's called expanding. The purpose of this next section is to take the expanded answer and put it back into the bracketed form. Now, we're not doing questions as hard as the example that I've got shown here. We're going to start easier, but we need to take the expanded form and put it back into bracketed form or a compact form. So, before we do that, let's start with something that we've done in primary school, talking about factors. Now think of the number 18. What are the factors of 18? Well, what numbers do we know multiply together to give 18? Well, we know 1 times 18 gives 18. We know 2 times 9 gives 18. We know 3 lots of 6 gives 18. 4 doesn't go in, 5 doesn't. Oh, that's it. That's the only numbers, the only whole numbers that we can get that will multiply together to give 18. So the factors of 18 are 1, 2, 3, 6, 9 and 18. All of these numbers here are factors of 18. What about factors of negative 16? Well, let's think about this. You've got 1 times negative 16. But you've also got negative 1 times 16. It doesn't matter which one's negative. It could be the 1, it could be the 16. They both give negative 16 as the answer. You've got 2 lots of 8, so you've got 2 lots of negative 8 or negative 2 lots of positive 8. 3 doesn't go into 6. 4 lots of 4, 4 lots of negative 4. And you wouldn't do negative 4 lots of 4 because that's the same. So when you look at this particular question, all of those numbers there are factors of minus 16. So the factors of minus 16 are the plus and minus 1, the plus and minus 2, the plus and minus 4, the plus and minus 8, and the plus and minus 16. This is probably a better way to write it though. Instead of writing negative 1 and positive 1 separately, we write plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 4, plus or minus 8, plus or minus 16. Now we're looking for the highest common factor. Sometimes the books will just refer to them as HCF, the highest common factor. That means the biggest number or the biggest factor that is a factor of 12, that's also a factor of 32, that's also a factor of 56. So let's think of the biggest number that divides evenly into 12, 32 and 56. We know 2 goes into all of them because they're all even numbers. Is there a number that's bigger? Does 3 go into 12? Yes. Does 3 go into 32? No. Oh, okay. What about 4? Yes, 4 goes into 12, 4 goes into 32 and 4 goes into 56. Are there any bigger numbers? No. So the highest common factor is the number 4. Now let's get trickier. Let's start doing these questions using algebra. So we look at our example here and we've got a 6ABC and a 9 B, C, D, and we want the highest common factor. Well, let's look at the number parts only to start with. What's the highest common factor of 6 and 9? The biggest number that divides into 6, that also divides into 9, and hopefully you can see it would be 3. So 3 is common. However, now let's look at the algebra parts. You've got A, B, C, you've got B, C, D. What letter is common to each algebra term? Well, both numbers here, or both terms here, have B's, and both terms have C's. So B and C is common. So the 3 is the highest common factor, and the B and the C, which means 3BC is the highest common factor of 6ABC and 9BCD. Now we're going to get into some factorising questions where we need to put it into bracketed form. So this is where we're starting to get into the nitty-gritty. Let's focus on our number parts first, the 8 and the 16. What number goes into 8 that also goes into 16? The highest common factor of 8 and 16. Well, 8 divides into 8, and 8 goes into 16. So 8 is our highest common factor. What are we left with? Well, we're left with a bracket. We know that because there's going to be 2 terms go inside the bracket. 8 was used in this first term. What did we not use? The x. So we put our x down. 8 goes into 16 twice, and we didn't use the y, so we get a 2y. Now you can always check to see if you did these right by just doing a quick expansion. What's 8 times x? 8x. What's 8 times 2y? 16y, which is the question. So you can see 8x plus 16y, the question. So I've checked it. I know I'm correct. What about part B? What's common? What number goes into -4 that also goes into -2? Well, then minuses are common, so I'm going to take out a minus as a common factor, and 2 goes into 4 and 2 goes into 2. But m is also in each term, so I've got a minus, a 2 and an m that's common. What goes in my brackets now? Well, minus was taken out. The 2 was taken out, and 2 goes into 4 twice. The m's gone out. There's an n still left, so you've got a 2 and an n that weren't used up. So we get 2n. Now this is where people often make mistakes. This minus here has been taken out as a common factor. So now the -2 has been taken out, the m has been taken out, everything has been taken out, so there's +1 left. Let's just see if that makes sense again. What's -2m times 2n? Well, a -2 times 2 gives -4mn. What's -2m times +1? -2m. And is that the same as the original question? Yes, that means I'm right. And that's how you can check your answer. Let's have a look at part C. Now we have 3 terms here, which means when we get our bracket, there'll be 3 parts in it. That's okay. Let's look at the numbers. What number goes into 9, 12 and 18? The highest common factor. Well, 9 goes into 9, 9 goes into 18, but 9 doesn't go into 12. 3 is the biggest number that goes into 9, 12 and 18. And the letter m is common to each term, so we'll take out 3m. Now in our brackets, there's going to be 3 parts. We took out the 3 and an m, so 3 goes into 9 3 times. The m got taken out. We're still left with an n, so 3n is left. We've taken out a 3. 3 goes into 12, 4, but there's a minus, so -4. We took out the m, we don't have the a taken out, so -4a. 3m is out the front. 3 goes into 6, sorry, I've given you the answer. 3 goes into 18 6 times. The m's already been taken out. We've still got a b, so it's +6b. We can do a quick check. What's 3m times 3n? 9mn. 3m times -4a is -12ma, or -12am. And 3m times 6b, 3 6s are 18, MB or BM. Is that answer the same as the question? Yes, which means it's correct. Now, highest common factor for 4 and 6. 2 goes into 4, 2 goes into 6. There is at least one x and at least one y in each term, so I'm going to take out 2xy. Remember, when you see 4x squared, it really is the same as this. And 6xy squared is the same as this. And if you look at that, you can see that each term has at least one x, and each term has at least one y, and 2 goes into 4 and 2 goes into 6. So we've got 2xy as our common factor. Now if we've got 2xy as our common factor, what's going to go left in the brackets? Well, we took out 2, and 2 goes into 4 twice. We've taken out an x and a y, so there's still another x that wasn't used, so we get 2x. Plus 2 goes into 6 3 times. We've taken out an x and a y, so there's another y because there's y squared, so we get plus 3y. Let's do our quick check. 2xy times 2x, 2 times 2 is 4, x times x gives x squared, and there's a y. Now 2xy times 3y, 2 3s are 6. You got an x and you got 2 y's. Is that the same as the original question? Yes, which means it is correct. Let's go to example number 4 now. Now this is one that is simple when you know what you're doing. And that's the trick, when you know what you're doing. So let's look at this question. What we've got is 2 multiplied by a bracket plus a multiplied by a bracket. And can you see that those two brackets are identical? The two brackets are exactly the same. So they are common brackets. They're common factors. So typically if I had something like this, if I had AB plus AC, I'd say, oh look, I've got a common term of A, and I'd write it down because it was common. And then the B plus C, the leftover parts, got written in the remaining bracket. We're going to be doing the same thing here. I'm going to write down what's common. There it is. I've written down the common bracket. So you don't really need this line here if you recognize that they're common. I've just rewritten it in red to make it stand out so that you can see that the brackets are the same. So you could have gone straight from the question to here. Write down the common bracket. Then we have our leftover parts, which is a 2 plus an A. So we get 2 plus A, and there's our answer. Finished. Let's try the next one. Can you see common brackets? If you can, and there they are. You don't need to write this step, except you do need to recognize that in front of that bracket is the number 1. You don't need to write that step. You could go straight to writing down the common bracket. And what's the leftover part? 1 minus x. You can see it here as well. There's my common bracket, 1 minus x. So that's the remaining part. Finished. So they're a bit tricky. There's some questions for your entertainment. Enjoy, and we'll continue the journey next class.